Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the By the Lakeside podcast. My name is Sandra and this is a podcast about my knitting and sewing adventures that take place in my little sewing room here, which is in my home and by the lake. I live in Canada in a city called Ajax, which is just outside of Toronto. And it was a really rainy and gloomy gray day today, but the sun just came out, so I thought it would be a nice time to do another podcast. Before I get into the knitting, I just wanted to take a moment and thank all of the really sweet and lovely people that sent me a personal message about episode 1. Your comments were so wonderful and so encouraging, and I just really wanted to take a moment and thank you all so very much and let you know how much they meant to me. I was a little bit nervous uploading the first episode, but you made me all feel a lot better about it and excited to continue. So here I am with episode 2. So thank you so much. And let's get started with some knitting. I actually have a finished object, which is super exciting. It is the FIDRA hat. This is a pattern by GUDRUN Johnson, and I hope I'm saying her name correctly. It is a beautiful pattern using a chart, which did take a little bit of extra concentration for me because I find I get easily distracted. But it's a beautiful pattern that uses a lot of twisted stitches. So there's a twisted rib down here at the bottom and some twisted stitches throughout, and a combination of knits and purls and some yarn overs, and really interesting. I really loved this pattern and seeing how it worked up. It's using the Brooklyn Tweed Quarry. I can't remember the color name right now, but it's in the natural color and I really love it. This hat is going to be for me. I put a pom-pom at the top and I really love it. So super excited about a finished object. This is how much I have left of my second skein, so it took almost the full 2, including some pom-poms. And I have entered this hat in the Hey Sister Hat Knit Along, which is through the Hey Sister podcast here on YouTube, which is Tabby and Rachel. It's one of my favorite podcasts. I really love it, and they have a fun knit along happening, which I think inspired me to start a whole bunch of hats for this fall. I am really excited to knit up hats for all of the boys in the house, my husband and my 2 boys, and I do have this Brooklyn Tweed yarn in a beautiful blue colorway, so I might actually knit another one of these in the future. I have gotten a few other inspirational ideas from the Hat Knit Along from the Hey Sister ladies. One of them was the Fleecency hat, which I might be having to pick up a new yarn for because I think this would be a great one for one of the boys. And just today I realized that Johi Locatelli's new hat pattern that I've been waiting for was released. It's the Cozy Head Happy Head, so it's a beautiful cabled hat. I'm really excited to try this one. I've been seeing a few of my favorite knitters participate in the test knit, and it looked gorgeous. So I think I have some yarn that I had just purchased last week, and it would be perfect for this, which I will show you in a few minutes. And when I was actually blocking this hat, I realized that one of the hats that I had knit quite a long time ago for one of my sons, Camden, I had never blocked it or woven in the ends. So while I was blocking my FIDRA hat, I decided to go ahead and weave in the ends of this hat, which I also really, really like. It is the Turn a Square hat by Jared Flood, and he is the main designer or creator behind Brooklyn Tweed. And I did this a really long time ago, but it's a really cute one and looks really good on my son. So I fixed this up so he can actually wear it. The yarn for this, if I can remember back to when I knit it, the main color is definitely a Cascade 220 yarn. And then the stripes here, which sort of change color a little bit, is a NORO yarn I don't remember exactly which one it was, but I do have all the details on my pattern page on Ravelry. If you're interested in any more of those details, both of these patterns are on Ravelry on my project page. You can find me on Ravelry. My username is Sandy Ran, and that's also my username on Instagram. So that covers my finished objects and my hat knitting projects that are coming up, or that I would like to do. What else do I have? I don't have any new works in progress other than my Pure Joy that I did show you in my first episode. That's also the Ahohi Locatelli pattern. I have knit just a little bit on this, not too much, but I really do love this shawl. So I am going to try to devote a little bit more time to getting some progress done on this. I'd really like to get a lot of it or all of it done for the end of August so that I can move on to some other things that I have in my mind. So since the last time, I have put in another one of these contrast stripes and then started the next wedge. Not very much, but a little bit. And again, I won't go into too much of that because I did talk a lot about it in my first episode, but that one is in my gray field bag from the Fringe Supply Company. And another work in progress is something I have been trying to spend more time on. I did also show it to you in my first episode. It's a vanilla sock using the hedgehog fibers. That was the first sock that I had done. And here's my second one. So I did get to do a couple more inches. I had put a progress keeper in here a couple of weeks ago, and I've done a little bit there. So between the Pure Joy and the vanilla socks here that are using the hedgehog fibers and Zephyr, those are the two projects I am going to try and focus on for the next couple of weeks. We have a long weekend, or I have a long weekend off from work, and then I also have a week off at the end of the summer that I'm really excited about. I have lots of knitting plans. We are going to go camping, and it's a great time for me to pack lots of knitting, so I'm really excited about that. Moving on to some other future sock knitting plans. I am really excited to try the Smooth Operator socks from Susan B. Anderson. I had seen this pattern and her project released on her blog a little while ago and was super excited about it, mostly because of the beautiful yarn which I ordered. So this is from Mustache Yarns, and this color is Family Reunion. It is a 75-25 superwash merino and nylon fingering weight yarn. It has 12 even stripes, and I'm really excited to try that heel. I'm also a little bit nervous about it, but when I heard that Susan's pattern had really really descriptive photos and instructions on how to do the heel, I was sold. So I'm going to give it a try and hope for the best, and as soon as I get some progress done on my other socks, this is what I'm going to be casting on next. And while I was looking at some of my sock yarns in my stash and planning some socks for the fall and winter, I decided that I needed to get all of these patterns from Mina Philipp. So Mina Philipp is the knitting expat on Ravelry, and she has the podcast, I'm sure a lot of you know. And she has this collection of sock patterns that are just a little bit more than a vanilla sock. I can't remember the name of it, if it was more than vanilla socks or something like that, but basically there are 4 patterns that just have a little bit of texture and patterning in them, but they're very similar to a vanilla sock. So the first one is the pebble sock, there's the cobblestone, the gravel, and the driftwood. So I thought these would be a great place to start with expanding on the vanilla socks, because I like to have patterns that are interesting but not too complicated that I have to count, so that if I am really tired at the end of a work day and I'm just kind of sitting with the kids and they're talking to me and we're watching something on TV, I don't make too many mistakes. So I'm hoping that those are going to be the ones. So moving right along, about a week ago, I had to go on a work trip with my good friend and co-worker to New York City. We had attended a trade show for kidswear, and we got a chance to go to one of my absolute favorite stores, which is Pearl Soho in Soho. And I picked up a few things I wanted to show you. So the first thing I got at Pearl was this beautiful fabric from Robert Kaufman. It's one of his chambrays, and I think this one is called Railroad Stripe. And I like to use this one on a lot of my patchwork pouches, so I wanted to pick up quite a bit of that because I can't find it locally. And then I picked up, I think this is a half yard. It was in a little plastic pouch. This really pretty quilting cotton, which I think would be really nice with the chambray, and I have plans for this in some of my patchwork pouches. I haven't had a lot of sewing time lately, but I have a few things I want to get started on for the fall. And I had also picked up this really beautiful yarn because I can't get it locally. It is the Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. It is 100% American wool. It's a worsted weight yarn, and this is 50 grams, so I did get two. I had rolled up one while I was there thinking that I might start a new hat, which I didn't get around to, but it's a really beautiful color. It's called Homemade Jam. I think it's really pretty. So I think that that is the yarn that I will be using for Hohi's new hat pattern. So there it is. I hope to be casting that one on very soon. So that was my first trip to Soho, Pearl Soho, and that night I couldn't stop thinking about something I saw, and I had to go back the next day to get it. So I already have the gray Fringe Supply Company field bag, but they had just released this beautiful blue version. So I had to go back. I couldn't get it out of my mind. I went back the next day and I picked it up. It's such a great weight canvas. I really, really like this. It's really sturdy, but it's still soft. And it's perfect for anything more than a sock project. So I like to keep shawls or anything else in here that is a little bit more than one skein. It's got a lot of great pockets inside where you can keep your notions and your pattern fits, and a really easy drawstring. I really love it. So I'm happy that I got a second one of those. And I was really happy with everything I got at Pearl. It's such a beautiful store. So let's see. Moving on to a little bit of dream knitting. I have been wanting to make myself a sweater for a really long time. I have in the past found a couple of patterns that I liked, and I've even purchased the sweater quantity of yarn for them, but something in the end just told me it wasn't the right pattern for me, or something stopped me. I'm not really sure. I think the investment of time and money in a sweater has scared me off a little bit because I'm just worried that it's not going to fit, and I really dislike ripping back stuff. So I think that's about to change because I've been really wanting to start something this fall. I love fall. It's my favorite season of the year. My birthday's in September, so I like to start a nice knitting project at that time of year. And I think I found the pattern that convinced me. So it's in this magazine that's called Making. It is published by Matter, which is from Carrie Bostick Hogue. I think that's how you say her name. I'm not too sure. It's a beautiful, beautiful magazine that has a whole bunch of stuff. There's knitting projects. There are, you can see here, beautiful knitting patterns. Also some dolls that you can make. Susan B. Anderson has a really pretty pattern in here too for some little toys. There's embroidery, sewing projects. I really love it. I think there's a lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff in here. But this is the sweater that has convinced me to actually order yarn and get going. So this is the Branches and Buds pullover by Carrie Bostic Hogue. I've seen a few people start this on Instagram, and I actually think that Susan B. Anderson has plans to make it too, which is kind of fun. But I think that the basic styling of the sweater is what sold me, and then that beautiful yoke detail. So there are the branches and then the multicolored buds, which I think are just gorgeous. So I have ordered my yarn from Quince & Co. It should be here next week. And I'm hoping that at the end of the month, when I have a little bit of time off, I will swatch it and get going on that and hope for the best. I'm very excited, but I am a little bit scared too. But we'll see how it goes. So I think that covers all of my dream knitting for right now. I am gonna try to get my works in progress completed and then cast on my sweater and my new socks. And I have a whole bunch of stuff that I am dreaming about for fall and winter, but I might save some of those for a little bit later because I can't start too many projects at once. So the last little thing I wanted to do was talk about some of my favorite things. I thought that would be a fun way to end the podcast. I haven't had much time to do some sewing. I did do a little shop update where you can find my project bags, but other than that, though that's on Etsy, but other than that I haven't really had time. But I had recently picked up the Lotta JANSDOTTER book called Everyday Style. And I have one of her older books, which I have used quite a bit. And this one it's new to me, but I think it's been out for a little while. Lotta JANSDOTTER is a Swedish designer. And she just has a really, I think, a beautiful style and aesthetic, and the photographs in here I find are really inspiring and colorful. The photography is gorgeous, and there are a lot of things in here. Let's see if I can give you a little snapshot. Just beautiful, inspirational things to get you started with sewing. So there are a lot of garments, there are some accessories, and I really love these types of pages that show her in her studio working. There's some bags, really great pieces. So I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with this in the fall. When the weather changes, I think I will be right here in my sewing room making project bags, and all the patterns are back here, so I am definitely going to try making a few things from here. So if you like sewing, I would highly recommend this one. And then one of the last things I wanted to talk about was one of my favorite items, which is like a notebook or a notebook cover. So I am a little bit of a sketchbook and journal collector. I love doodling and drawing and working with watercolors, and even just documenting small things that happen in our lives so that I don't forget them, because I have such a terrible memory and I really do want to capture some of the moments from our family. And I have tried Project Life in the past, but I find it's been time consuming and I haven't really kept it up. So I feel like this journal, which is the CHIC SPARROW Mr. Darcy, and the color is Toffee. It's a leather notebook or cover, and it carries your notebook system with these elastics. And it's very much like the Midori Traveler's Notebook, where you can purchase the notebooks that actually are in here, and they're held in, if you can see, by elastics. So they're just in here. So what I keep in here are 3 notebooks. So I kind of organize my life. So at the first notebook are some Etsy shop or podcast ideas or some knitting projects, things like that that I want to jot down. I keep them in this book. The second book here is if I have a photograph or something I wanted to capture or remember with my family, then I would put that in here. So it's sort of like a little spot where I put stories or things that the kids have said to me Like this one here, we had redone Jamie's room, and so I had a couple of like a before and after and just a few notes and things that we did in his room. Sometimes it's just scribbles of like new paints that I've picked up. Every once in a while I'll take an online art class, so this would be where I would put some notes. And then the last one in here is I put a little explore tab on the front. And this one is a lot more about our family summer adventures or travels. We have a little vintage camper, which is right here. So we try to go camping a few times a year, and in here I keep little notes and information about where we stayed, what we saw, and that way if we want to visit the same parks again, I'll have a record of which spots we stayed in and what we liked. So I just thought I would mention that because it's one of my favorite things, and I usually keep my fountain pen here. And when we travel, I'll take this along with just a few little pens and markers and things, and just keep track of things as we go so that I don't forget. So I think that covers just about everything for this episode. I just wanted to thank everyone again for watching, and I hope you're all doing really well, and I hope to see you very soon with the next podcast. So take care. Bye.